with your new friend Ty.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast. It's a podcast where you find new friends and new music. This week we are joined by somebody special. He's not an artist, but he is the man behind the best Labor Day weekend in the Inland Northwest. He launched Farmjam in 2019, and today he took some time away from getting that field ready to give us some insider information about the festival. Let's welcome to the show the man behind Farmjam, Mr. Greg Knight. Greg, how the heck are you, friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ty. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm doing great. I'm excited to ask you some questions that I haven't gotten to ask you before about Farmjam, and hopefully get some insider information for everybody listening.
Oh, I'd love to.
Great. We'll tee off with Greg next.
It's time to tee off with Ty. Here comes the first four.
Okay, here we go, Greg. Question number one of the first four. What is your ideal vacation?
Ideal vacation?
These ones will make you think.
A music vacation. Quite honestly, I could go to Nashville once a month and just walk up and down the streets and watch live music.
Yeah, and you were just there. You sounded like you had a blast.
Yeah, I went for a week in March, and I got to see some concerts. I got to see Sierra Farrell at the Ryman, and she's one of my favorites, and that was amazing. But just every bar had incredible music with talented musicians, and that sort of vacation is something I could do every month.
I'm with you. Maybe we need to find a sponsor to set that up. Send us on down to Nashville once a month. Okay, question number two for you. You've got a farm. You've got an old farmhouse there. What's the most unique item out on the farm, or the most unique item that you own?
The most unique item we own? Probably old farm implements. You know, like most farms, you look out here and you see like an old hay rig that was probably 1920 or something. My grandparents lived on this farm, and I know that some of the equipment laying around and tools are things that were either here when my grandparents moved here or my grandparents bought used in the 40s and 50s. So that stuff is very unique, and it's actually pretty cool. I use an old pipe wrench out on the irrigation line that I think it's like 1920, but it still works.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Passing not just down the farm and everything, but the tools like that, especially like a relatively everyday tool, like a pipe wrench for watering.
Exactly.
Okay, question number three. If you could bring a fictional character to life from a TV show, movie, book, wherever, who would you bring to life and hang with?
Oh boy, a fictional one, huh? That's a hard one. You're gonna press me on this one. Probably because I'm an old guy, old-timey one, someone like Sherlock Holmes.
Okay. You go out and solve some mysteries together?
Well, it's just his thought process can be used every day in a job, every day with your kids or family. I think sometimes we overthink things, and he never did, if you've read any of his books or watched the movies. And I think it's a usable trait to have.
And no better way to pick it up than hanging out with the guy himself, for sure.
Right.
Okay, question four, last one of the first four. If you could have an unlimited supply of anything, alcohol, tacos, corn, Pepsi, guitar strings, scotch tape, whatever it is, what would it be?
Unlimited supply of time with my family.
That's the best answer. We get that every now and again, but hands down, that is the best answer.
Yep, I agree.
Well, that was the first four presented by Box for Fighting Hockey Apparel, Northwest Signature Hockey Apparel, online at b4fhockey.com. Use code TEAPARTY for 20% off your entire order. But now, Greg, let's turn our attention to you and to Farmjam. But before we get too deep into it, give everybody kind of the Farmjam elevator pitch. Why should they come to Colville on Labor Day weekend?
The best thing about Farmjam and Colville Labor Day weekend is it's the end of summer. It's time to wind down and get ready for fall. There's a lot of amazing music festivals out there, as you know, that are like spring break at Daytona Beach. Farmjam is that last weekend at the lakes. It is a good family-friendly, chill, relax time to listen to some amazing music. And we have a great mix of popular musicians you hear on the radio, musicians you will never hear on the radio, genres you might never have listened to. all in a wonderful setting outdoors with a great Farm Jam staff there to help you if there's anything you need.
Well, and I think a lot of people, when they see a music festival, they think of these giant festivals that are not family friendly. I can speak to that firsthand. But with Farm Jam, like I've brought my, as he was 9 when he started coming, I brought my kid the last 3 years and he loves it. He can run around the campground. We're not worried about, anything terrible happening to him. It really is that nice family friendly wind down of the summer. But speaking of the family, you mentioned it a little bit. Your grandparents, lived on the farm. The farm's been in the family for a few generations now. Where did it come from?
The farm, well, I don't know. The house I live in, I'm in the kitchen now. This house was built in 1906. My grandparents moved here in 1950. And so this is where my dad grew up. And I grew up down the road a few miles and then moved back here after traveling around the country and the world and raised my kids here. And it's just the next generation.
Well, and you say you're sitting in the kitchen of that house. That's the house that's right there up front that everybody basically has to drive past, right?
Yes, it is a true old-fashioned white farmhouse with a beautiful front porch and hardwood floors that are warped because it's so old. But it's the house that everybody drives by. It's not a show house. It's where we live, and it's our Farm Jam office, and it's where things happen.
And that's a good setup as you're coming onto the farm. I mean, you really get into that, mindset that you're driving out on a farm when you have to drive right past the fields, right past the house. And you guys still have a fairly working farm out there with corns and pumpkins.
Oh, yeah,
What
yeah.
else do you guys have out there?
We have, once again, old fashioned, we have the 2 red barns and the white chicken shed, tool shed. And the Farm Jam Festival takes place in our hayfield. And we cut the hay last week, and the bales, as you've been there, the bales we use for the venue walls are in a stack here now. And then we have a 12-acre cornfield. In the fall, we have a corn maze, and then we have a 5-acre pumpkin patch. So a little of everything.
I mean, it's a great way to end the summer. You come up there, you do Farm Jam, then you come back a month later, you get your pumpkins. It's full service, one stop there. Right.
I think it's a good transition. Summer ends, the kids get back to school. I've already got schools calling me for field trips for all the local schools from Colville to Kettle Falls to Northport to Onion Creek. They all come and do field trips, and then you get into fall. And as you know, our fall weather in this area, all of September and October is truly very nice. So it's a good transition from the festival into the corn maze.
So, and we've talked about, the farm a little bit, how it started, all about that. But I want to talk a little bit about the beginning of Farm Jam itself. It was hosting a festival like this something that had been a goal of yours for a while, or, did it kind of come together out of, something that you had seen previously?
Well, I always wanted to host music on the farm. And 2018, we started thinking about it, talking about it, and we just started figuring out how to do it, and it grew to the point where 2019 was the festival that it was, and it probably, in hindsight, was bigger than we should have started, because in the fall now, at the Corn Maze, we have a music weekend where we always have a couple performers here right at the barn. And maybe that's where we should have started, but we started with the festival, which was great. We learned a lot year 1. Year 2 was COVID, so nothing happened. And now we're getting it dialed in kind of to what we wanted. So it was just trial and error. I just asked people, hey, how should we do this? Who do you know that could help us with this? And just went on and on like that.
Well, and you mentioned that first weekend being very ambitious. I mean, you had some great artists like Haley Witters, Chase Rice, but you had over 25 artists out there for that very first weekend. I mean, like you said, that's pretty ambitious for the first year. What were your nerves like as you were setting that up and waiting for those tickets to come in that very first year as you were trying to build out that brand?
Well, it was nerve-wracking. Even now, year 5, it's nerve-wracking waiting for the ticket sales. And in hindsight, we stretched the music too long, and so we shouldn't have been starting music at 10 in the morning and going till midnight. But that's fine. It's just once you've started down the path, you kind of just have to go full forth and have faith it's going to work out, I guess.
Well, I think in year 5, you've got to be pretty close to being able to say, hey, this has been successful. And if you're listening, you don't have your tickets yet, you can get them at farmjamfestival.com. If you use code TEEPARTY, TEE party, all one word, you'll save on your gate admission. But you've got to hurry. Greg and I were talking before this, and they expect ticket sales to pick up here quickly. You don't want to be left out in the cold. So head on over to farmjamfestival.com.
Well, exactly. As you know, Ty, our VIP packages have sold out every year. This year, we expanded the offerings of VIP and have some VIP seating, but they're down to just a handful remaining. And while we are in a field, it's not an unlimited sized field. So we do have a cap on our attendance. And as tickets sell, we'll start hitting that. So I would go get tickets right away.
Definitely. Again, farmjamfestival.com. And Greg talked about it already. It really is a venue built out of hay bales. So once it's built and once it's set up, there's only so many people that they can fit in there and fit into the campground. So don't miss out on your chance to get the tickets. And you touched on it a little bit, Greg. The festival's grown so much over the last 5 years, and you just keep expanding it every year. This year, last year rather, you added a side stage for our buddy DJ Twangers so that he can see the crowd can see him, a cool little screen in front of him.
Love DJ Twangers. That's right.
He's really the heart and soul in between sets there. Really keeps that vibe moving throughout the entire day. But what else do we have going on this year? What other big changes have you made?
The biggest one the fans will see, Ty, is the after hours stage. We have a stage that is technically outside the venue, kind of right on the edge of the campground, and it's that corner you walk by that almost every patron coming in walks past it. And we're going to have Karma Circle from Spokane, one of the most amazing cover bands out there, are going to play for an hour every night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after the last band. So as you're walking out of the venue, right there on the corner is going to be one of the best bands anywhere, just, keeping the fun going another hour for everybody.
And you guys just released the schedule for this year, and it looks fantastic. But let's talk about, it's starting on Friday with a familiar face, Jesse Lee, singing the national anthem at 4:30. Then it's Brandon Jackson, who folks might have seen on American Idol. And then at the end of the night, it finishes off with Drake Milligan, who wasn't able to take the stage last year due to weather. But Friday nights at Farm Jam are typically more for the local artists from around the area. Why is it so important for you to give that platform to local artists?
Well, that was one of our goals, or one of our mission or vision, whatever you want to call it, Ty, where we wanted to make sure on our stage we had local musicians. This year we have them scattered throughout the weekend, but by local we don't mean 100% Spokane. We mean kind of the Northwest. Jesse Lee's from Brigham. As you know, we've had Fire Bottle Brothers from Colville up there. We've had Jesse Quandt. We've had Devin Wade. We've had Last Chance Band a few times and Devin Wade a few times. We've had Sarah Brown, who's from the Colville, Cuddle Falls area. But we have amazing musicians in the Northwest who are just as good as some of the musicians in Nashville. As you know, Brandon Jackson is back in Nashville right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be back up here Friday. Dakota Poorman, he's from Seattle. You've had him on your show. So we don't ever want to get to where we think someone has to be from across the country to be an amazing musician. I mean, look at Jessie Lee. We get asked to have her back every year, and this, I think, will be her 3rd year. So she's from Oregon. So next year, we already have bands planned. We do a Thursday night kind of Farm Jam kickoff for the campground uptown in Colville. Well, that's the Aaron Ball Band from Idaho. So there are amazing musicians in our area, and we want to make sure they get up on stage and show folks what they have.
Well, and then you always follow up a killer Friday that kind of ramps everybody up. It usually starts as the crowd's coming in, everybody's getting their camper set up, and then by the end of that night on Friday, everybody's there ready to party, and that just leads into Saturday, And you talked about Dakota Poorman. We're just about to release an episode with Britt Taylor, Mickey LaMontia, William Michael Morgan, the War Hippies, and Jackson Dean. I mean, that is a hell of a lineup for a Saturday night, Greg, especially, getting somebody like Jackson Dean who is on the way up. And you kind of have this knack for finding people that are, on their way to country radio or on their way to the Opry, or with Jackson Dean, potentially on their way to stardom. But what does it take to book an artist of that caliber? Pull back the curtain a little bit and walk us through what the booking process looks like from a high level. Are you just reaching out straight to him, or is there more to that process?
No, they all have an agent, a booking agent, and we start with them. I usually have a budget prepared, and if the certain musician in a certain slot, for instance, Saturday headliner, is out of my budget, well, then it just is what it is. Don't have deep pockets like some place like Watershed Festival, for instance. We're never going to get Dierks Bentley, and that's fine. So I have an offer that's, I think, and hope in the range the musician will take, and then it's being patient. Fortunately now, year one and year two, a lot of Nashville was like, who the heck are these guys? Well, now, we do have a reputation. They know us. They know the musicians will be treated properly. They know the production. You've seen the production. They know the stage, lights, sound. That's all Toucan Productions from Oklahoma City. They know that's going to be good. So then it's just patient and getting, being prepared to wait to see what the musicians come to. And then it's an ever-changing situation between the time you sign until the time the musician shows up, with schedules and stuff like that. But it's just being ready to try to accommodate whatever's needed to get that musician here and on the stage.
Well, and I cannot wait to see Jackson Dean. I know a lot of the Tea Party crew are very excited to see Jackson Dean. He's going to round out Saturday night. And then, of course, Karma Circle outside after hours at the stage. And then Sunday, it kicks off with Jam of Faith, which is something that you started last year. For people that weren't there, give us just kind of the high level of what that is.
Well, we wanted to start our Sundays with a gospel music. Last year we had Carson Peters and Iron Mountain, and they're from Tennessee, and it's just amazing bluegrass music. But they did a bluegrass gospel set, and we have a pastor give a few words. Just start your day giving thanks that we're blessed that we're able to do this, and so we have some music, a few words. This year, Pastor David Chris from here in Colville. Last year, we had a pastor from Spokane. Last year, we had the music from Carson Peters and Iron Mountain. This year, it's Chet O'Keefe, who lives in Colville a lot of the year, lives in Texas, lives in Nashville. He's a singer-songwriter who's getting ready to release a gospel album, which was kind of exciting. We got him lined up, and it's just, this year we did it outside the venue on a smaller, more intimate stage. It's the after hours stage, but it's a place everybody in the campground can wander up and listen as they want, and just enjoy the start of the Sunday.
And like I said, you've got this knack for finding people that are on their way up. And I think putting out a gospel album is step one towards making that a longer term, career for him, or, hitting that level. And then after that, the venue opens with Dane Lewis, Jesse Daniels, Red Farron, Matt Mason, and then you round out the night with Taylor Austin Dye and Craig Morgan. And I have heard so much around town about Craig Morgan and the lineup just in general. But what this year were some of your bigger struggles in getting everybody booked and getting the show ready?
Well, for instance, Matt Mason and Mickey LaMontia, who's on Saturday, have tried to get them for a couple of years, and it's just schedules and timing and all of that stuff. And then Craig Morgan was I didn't think we were going to be able to get him in this year's lineup, and he is like one of our all-time favorites, like Rodney Atkins last year. But they had some schedule change and called me and said, I had planned actually to have him as our Saturday headliner, and they called and said, well, he can't do Saturday, but would you take him on Sunday? And I thought, heck yeah, end the weekend with Craig Morgan.
That's a great taste to leave in people's mouths as they leave the festival, for
Oh,
sure.
And then if you go and look as we start looking at these musicians, Red Farron and Matt Mason, look at their Spotify numbers. Those two are huge. They have a huge following and constant posts on Facebook from people about them. Jesse Daniels, I tried to get him last year, and it just couldn't work. And so I'm really excited. We talk about Saturday. Well, look at Sunday's lineup. And have you had Taylor Austin Dye on your show? You have, right?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. But you're a fan.
Definitely.
Yeah.
She's another one that the entire Tea Party crew is excited to see.
Oh, and it's amazing, though, on our lineup, people from top to bottom are being tagged as who they want to see. Just today on Facebook, we posted the schedule, and we said, who are you excited to see? First person said Dakota Portman. Well, he's our opener on Saturday. What does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting there early and going to stay all day. There's really great. You've got a
well, if you remember, last year, early on Saturday, our venue filled up, and I was wondering what was going on. Well, that was Brian Martin. Well, look now, who's on the radio everywhere?
Exactly. And I think you're right. I mean, you touched on them not being, necessarily people that or artists that people have heard on the radio. And I think you've got that with this Sunday lineup for the most part. I mean, I just checked. Matt Mason's got almost 1 million monthly streams on Spotify. Red Farron's got 2.5 million.
I know. So, I'm expecting that Sunday afternoon early, the place to be full.
Which is good because you've got a big list of vendors this year as well. There's some places
you asked what I thought the festival visitors are going to see as big changes. Well, in addition to that after hours stage, it's going to be the food vendors. We've always had good food vendors, but this year we upped the number of them and the variety of foods. So I'm excited for that. I try to have food from all of them sometime during the weekend. Well, that's going to be tough this year because there's so many good ones.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I try and visit everybody, at least once throughout the weekend, but you just keep adding more. I'm going to have to go on a campground jog on Sunday morning just to make sure that I can fit it all in. So then, and each year, on top of all of the vendors, on top of all of the food, you also partner with nonprofits, oftentimes benefiting veterans. And this year, it's very local, right? Right up there in Colville. Tell us about this year's nonprofit.
Yeah, this year's nonprofit is called the American Freedom Fund. It helps veterans through shooting contests and sporting events, that sort of stuff. If you go online, it says, they're founded and their address is Washington, D.C., but it's Liv and Gabe Stecker who are from Colville, grew up here. A lot of people in Colville know their family. We've vetted a lot of nonprofits this year, and they have a super high rating on all the nonprofit scoring entities out there that rate, where the funds go. All of their funds go to the veterans themselves. They're not taking administrative fees or they're not taking wages for themselves. So it's just a wonderful veterans group. And this year it's back in Colville. We've helped nonprofits from Spokane and the whole area, and we've done food banks and we've done animal shelters. We've done farming nonprofits, but this year it's the American Freedom Fund. So we're excited to be working with them.
And I think you do great work for the veterans. You've got the war hippies coming. They're both veterans. It'll be a good time this year, Greg. I can't wait to get out there on the farm this Labor Day weekend. I've got some fun stuff planned, up on stage in between the artists, maybe throwing some stuff out there with DJ Twangers. But where can folks keep up with what you've got going on? What are the social media handles for Farm Jam?
Our Facebook account, just, search Farmjam Festival on Facebook, Instagram. Those two places have all the updates. We post the know before you go information, the frequently asked questions, where to get tickets, the lineups, what the field is looking like as we get closer. All the information is there. Our website has it as well, but the website is more static. That's where you have the ticket links That's where you have bios of the musicians. That's where you have the list of campground do's and don'ts and what you can bring and not bring. But for the day-to-day updates, Facebook works best.
Well, my favorite Facebook post every year is the one where you guys are rolling out the VIP bar, setting that one up. That's how I know that we're getting close.
Yeah, the VIP bar, that's the old grain silo. Yeah, we'll drag that up there on Wednesday afternoon.
That's how I know it's Farm Jam week. I see the VIP grain shed set up, and I'm like, okay, we're on our way out there. Greg, thank you so much for jumping on here. Before we let you go, we end every show the same way we start it. It's called the Final Four. You up for it?
Sure thing.
It's time for the Final Four.
Okay, question number 1, and these ones are going to make you think again.
Okay.
What's your favorite concert memory?
The favorite what?
Concert memory.
Favorite concert memory. Oh, geez, there's so many of them. But, I just really liked Zach Brown Band at the Gorge.
Okay, I can see that. I feel like that show had to be pretty incredible, them at the Gorge.
Them or Tom Petty at the Gorge. They were both in pretty close proximity to each other, and that's a wonderful venue, and they're two musicians that put on amazing shows.
Yeah, I can see why that's hard to choose between those two. Okay, question 2. Who are the 3 most recently played artists on your Spotify app? Who'd you listen to most recently?
Most recently? Let me see. I listened to, the woman from Boise, Eileen Jewell. Have you heard of her?
I haven't. I'm going to add her to my list, though.
Check her out. Eileen Jewell, Creed Fisher, and George Jones.
Oh, Creed Fisher, friend of the show.
That's right. We want him to get out here, too.
That would be a great time, especially at this festival. Okay,
the
this
fourth one is Gethin Jenkins. We want Gethin Jenkins out here, too.
Yeah, that would be a good one, too. Look at that. You're tipping the hat for future lineups here, Greg. Letting the cat out of the bag. Okay, question number 3. And this one's more of a local question. For folks that have never been to Colville, what are the 3 things that they need to stop, do, or eat?
Stop, do, or eat? Well, you need to go to Farm Jam.
Yes, definitely.
Eat. There's quite a few good restaurants up here. I like Fired Up Pizza, and I like Poorhouse. The Poorhouse in Colville actually is one of our food vendors, and there's a reason. It's because I just really like their food. I don't dislike the other restaurants, but I love their food. And what else to do? If you spend any time out here at all, you need to get up to Lake Roosevelt. Enjoy some time at the beach up there on the river.
There you go. I mean, you guys have been known to take the artists out into the backcountry a little bit, maybe out to Lake Roosevelt for some fishing or down to the river.
Sure do.
So if you're an artist out there looking for a good time, Farm Jam is also where you should be. Okay, Greg, this one is all up to you. If you could pick one thing for people to take away from your appearance on the show or just from Farm Jam in general, what would it be? What's the one takeaway from this episode?
That Farm Jam's the can't miss festival. It's the one festival you need to see each year.
I 100% agree with that. Greg, thanks again for stopping by. I can't wait to see you Labor Day weekend, and I'm sure we'll connect before then.
Oh, thank you, Ty. We'll be in touch long before. Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah. And guys, that was another episode of the Tea Party Podcast. It's a country music podcast where you find new friends and new music like Greg Knight and Farm Jam Festival.
Go tee off on the like button at facebook.com/Tea Party Podcast.
This has been a Tea Party Communications production. Theme music created by Jesse Quandt. Announcer voiceovers by Jay Gwinn. And as always, hosted by Ty Pisani.